A guy who's also been extremely ridiculed and has been all over the media as of late, but hasn't built the same type of equity as Aaron Rodgers, is Ben Simmons. And so Ben Simmons reportedly is refusing to report to the Philadelphia 76ers training camp, quote unquote, never intends to play for the 76ers again. Never intends to put on a Philadelphia 76ers uniform ever again. And the start of the NBA season is fast approaching in about 3.5 weeks to a month. And so when we think about Ben Simmons, obviously, if you're going to go through with this path, he is prepared to face, obviously, the potential fines that may come his way. He's fully understanding that. Rich Paul, his agent, I'm sure, has communicated that fully to him. And since that one meeting that he has had with Philadelphia 76ers brass in August, he's cut off all communication with them. He made it clear, I want out, trade me. But I think it's important to be able to recount how we reach this point, because oftentimes people just see the headline, or they've only been following a story for a week or 2 weeks or even a month. And sometimes that's not even long enough. You got to go back farther to fully understand how this relationship became so fractured and so broken, how it decayed so much in the year. It wasn't just from this recent playoffs. So no, what happened was we have to go back to the start of last year, where the Rockets and the 76ers appeared to have made a trade for James Harden and Ben Simmons. So at the moment, the beginning of last year, the 76ers had prepared to shop Ben Simmons to the Houston Rockets for James Harden. That was the crux. That was the genesis of the issue. And then from there, it got exacerbated by the recent playoff struggles and by his inability to shoot in the postseason. His confidence was completely shot. And so those struggles in the postseason further exposed those offensive weaknesses in his game. And it manifested in the 76ers losing to the Atlanta Hawks in the second round of the postseason. He was absolutely chewed out by Embiid, by his coach. Embiid said the turning point in Game 7 was a hooded figure not deciding to shoot, or not deciding to dunk and deciding to pass it off instead of Matisse Thybulle. Pretty obvious yellow flag who he's talking about. Doc Rivers questioned whether or not Ben Simmons is a championship caliber point guard. Those things just kind of added fuel to a leaking gas pipe that had already existed from the beginning of last year. Because at the beginning of last year, that's when the Philadelphia 76ers made their intentions clear. We like Ben Simmons, but we actually see some better players. So that was the crux of the issue. And then again, everything became more illuminated after this postseason. And there's no question, let me first say this too, because I totally support Ben Simmons' position here. I totally support how he's decided to handle this, because at the end of the day, after the loss to the Hawks, he came out and was accountable. Just said, I didn't play well. And those were his only remarks of the entire offseason. That was it. That was the last time we heard from him. And then he quietly approached 76ers brass and said, please trade me. I do not want to return here. And instead, the 76ers are trying to play two sides of the coin here. They're trying to get the best of both situations. And again, similarly to how I was talking about Aaron Rodgers' name getting besmirched, Ben Simmons, after he quietly approached the team and took accountability in the post-game conference after the Hawks, again, not that criticism wasn't justified or validated, but at the same time, his teammates, members of his own organization, used that platform as an opportunity to absolutely besmirch his name and his reputation. And again, not that it's not justified, but those are the types of conversations that need to be had internally and not for public consumption. And so I've maintained the same position on this situation. I've always posited it's not a matter of if Ben Simmons will be traded, it's when. And this was the same position I shared even before any comments were made from Joel Embiid or Doc Rivers. I always believed after those playoffs, it's done. He can't flourish anymore in Philadelphia. This is not the city for him. This is not the place for him. This is not the team for him. But with that being said, I have always maintained the position that I do believe in Ben Simmons as a talent. And I do believe that in a different situation, he could potentially thrive in a new environment. I'm sure all of you guys have different places you can envision him going. And whatever that place is, I think he can succeed a lot more there than he would in Philadelphia right now. Because when you don't have the city, when you don't have the teammates, when you don't have the entire organization behind you, and they're publicly scrutinizing you, it's impossible to thrive. And I understand that Ben Simmons is basically saying, listen, you don't have to believe in me, but to think that I'm just going to kind of show up and play this perfect lame duck role for you so you can execute a trade because other teams will think that I'm a little happier, the hell with that. F you. I'm not doing that. So I understand why Ben Simmons is taking the position that he's taken. And again, there's no question that a brutal and honest conversation needed to be had with him about his play and about his performance. I'm not disputing that. But when you bring everything to the limelight, to the forefront, Ben Simmons is saying, well, I don't need to cooperate with you now. There's no need to cooperate with you now. And the fact that his agent's Rich Paul, you know he's not going to cooperate now. He's a very pro-player agent. So, again, it's not a matter of if he's going to be traded. It's about when. And the 76ers are in a real quandary here because Simmons has made it publicly clear through not only his words but his actions as well. He's not returning to the team. Every other team in the NBA knows that he wants out. And the 76ers played their hand a little too aggressively early on. They were asking for the sun and the moon to start these trade negotiations, which I understand Daryl Morey had to do what he had to do. But now you're probably going to have to trade him for 75 cents on the dollar, despite the fact that you would think the 76ers have the leverage here, given that he had just completed the first year of his 5-year contract. He's still under contract for 4 more years. But again, given what we've started to see from athletes in recent years with James Harden, the leverage kind of is with Ben Simmons right now because every single team understands the situation that he's in. So, again, I think at the end of the day, the 76ers are probably going to have to succumb to the pressure and acquiesce because they're just going to likely have to trade him. That's what I'm saying.